I see trees of blue, red skies too.
Oh my God! Oh no! Oh
goodness gracious me! Hello and welcome to the Drunk Duck Quackast. I'm Ozone Ocean and this is Quackast 391. We're talking about group dynamics or personality mixes for characters. This is based on Baines's news post, and Baines is with me. Hello, Baines.
Hello, I'm so glad to be back in school.
How was your summer break?
Oh, it was amazing. August was not as good as I hoped it would be. It went by quick. I had so many plans, and none of them happened.
Oh.
So,
Did you get
now I'm...
the Frank school folders? Did you?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I got duotangs, or whatever they're called.
Get your trapper.
See, that
the bendy.
Keeper.
You're right. If you don't have
That's
the
right.
use of Franks, then it don't bode well for you, young man.
It's true. It's all
Of
true.
course, Pitt Face is with us as well. Pitt, being Baines's companion in school. And Tan Serene, who's the substitute teacher this year.
I have created all the grammar that you will ever need to learn languages.
To learn languages. Right. All of them. All of them. We start with Korean, Icelandic.
Wow.
So yeah, we're going to talk about personality mixes, the stuff that these guys are learning about in school, but we're basing it on Baines's news post, and it should be rather interesting. Baines is going to outline it for us, but first, the featured comic. So here we are with the feature. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was Ink LaRue, Sexy Cinnamon Girl, Cool Bodhisattva, Rampaging Rumpzilla, and Weird Ink LaRue are part of the cast of this crazy, cheeky comedy comic strip. The adventures they get into are really quite saucy and not for innocent eyes. Cinnamon Girl is a buxom, incorrigible, wild thing, barely restrained by Bodhisattva, who's just too cool for words. She mercilessly teases Ink LaRue, but he clearly deserves it. It's tasteful, for the most part, but definitely M-rated. The humour is very burlesque. If you like your comedy with a slightly naughty flavour, this is certainly the comic for you. The art is a mixture of pen and ink, coloured pencil, black and white, and digital colour. Yeah, this is can be very cheeky and sells close to the line, but it's within the M rating, so I'm allowed to feature it. I think the most it features is a couple of nipples. Just a couple of panels of them. Mostly, you'll see pasties and things like that. Maybe a bare bottom, but nothing too bad. So this is close to the limit and very, very saucy and burlesque, but it's a lot of fun, and I think it's worth a reading. So don't be too concerned about it. It's quite a tease, a visual tease. You're never going to see anything really, really, truly not safe for work. It's a lot of fun, a lot of naughty fun. And I hope you enjoy it. There's a lot of pages of this comic to get through. And it's by Uncle John, and it's rated M for very mature. Okay, read it. And that was the featured comic. Okay, so, and Gumwells has given us the featured music. This week, Gumwells has given us a theme to Somnia. Creeping threat, urban, cool, dynamic action. This music gets things started. It's on the move, and there's no stopping it. 80s action drama with 2000 sophistication. Take it away, Gumwells, with Somnia. And that was the theme. Thank you very much for that, Gumwallace. The featured music for this week. Okay, so we talked about characters, personality mixes, dynamics, all that kind of stuff. So, Baines, just tell us.
Yeah, so there's an idea of opposites if you have a cast of two, or sort of a main group of two or something like that, where you have contrasting characters in some way. Okay. And that's great for clashes and just sort of completing the picture, having sort of a full set of reactions to whatever's going on in the story. And
like the Odd Couple.
Like the Odd Couple, exactly. So this takes it a little bit further, a little bit deeper. It's to do with temperament. It's loosely, I saw something that's loosely connected to this kind of on TV tropes, to do with the body's humors, that old sort of science, so-called science or whatever from back in the day, where like different personality types could be correlated to the various body's humors.
Goes back to ancient Greece, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. They're ahead of the game on everything. Those Greeks.
They are.
They know all that. Like somehow they knew all this stuff like thousands of years ago. But so this is kind of along those lines, where you make a cross section, psychologically. Like if someone's on the spectrum between nurturing and like a nurturing kind of energy, emotional energy, and then a more action taking kind of energy. So you have that kind of spectrum. Cross it with someone who's more left-brained, so more practical and organized, and right-brained, sort of more creative and kind of multiple kind of inputs, outputs. So you have like that kind of personality. Everyone will be somewhere on that spectrum for each of those. So somewhere between nurturing and confident, somewhere between practical and creative. And then if you cross those, you can get 4 kind of personality types. So someone who is more nurturing but practical, like kind of an advice giver, rule following, organized, maybe bookish, maybe not. Specifics of the character can sit on top of these things, but just general temperaments. You have this sort of, more, I don't want to say passive, so I'll say nurturing type of energy, practical. You can have an action taking practical person, like a warrior type like personality.
Leela from Futurama.
Yes, absolutely. Like Conan or Leela. Many action heroes. Or you have the creative type. So the creative action taking person is more socially flexible, a performer or a salesperson, even like someone who's very adaptable, who can do amazing things socially.
Captain Kirk, basically.
Possibly. He might be somewhere in between the practical and the creative. But definitely that confident kind of energy. Shatner, definitely. And then you have the more passive or nurturing, better word, creative type. So you have the shy poet, maybe the comedic writer.
Okay. Lisa?
Very private kind of person. Well, Lisa's kind of a genius too in book smarts and stuff like that.
Yeah. What
would be a character of this type? A lot of main characters who are writers would be this type.
Okay.
Sarah Jessica Parker in Sex and the City, I would say would be this type. the sort of artsy, but not the outgoing performer type.
Yeah, all right.
Who else? A lot of that type of sort of inward looking, kind of more in their head type protagonists.
Yeah, okay. I get what you mean.
Yeah, so then you have your 4.
And everyone, well, is this a thing where everyone does these mixes of characters?
Yes.
Or
every single creator. No. What?
I was thinking, like, in any character you can name, like in TV or comics or whatever, can you think about them in this way?
Well, you can try. Not all of them are going to be written all that well. Some will be somewhere in between. Some will be more extreme. So you can create a cast of more than 4, where you have more extreme versions of these types. And people will all have their quirks that don't neatly fit into each box, And you can also have a more mature version of each personality type, or a less mature version. You can have an evil version, a good version, But yeah, you can analyze any character. I would put Walter White from Breaking Bad solidly in the nurturing, even though he's not a nurturer, but the more in his head logical guy. He's the ultimate sort of extremely book smart, not particularly socially adaptable.
Yeah.
He's creative, but it's more like he's a clever guy. He's a brilliant guy, but he's that type of guy. Jesse, I would put in what you're talking about, the passive, more creative minded. Maybe I'd put him maybe in that category. His like, yo, bitch stuff is a facade, Yeah. That I don't think is really him. He's more of a gentle soul.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting examination.
Yeah.
Yeah, between those characters, the Walter White is the guy who seems more reticent and like he wouldn't be that, an action taker, but he actually will take the actions that Jesse fronts about. He will kill someone without a second thought.
That's right. To protect himself more. That's a good point. Yeah, he might be, you could put him in a more action taking. I mean, where he starts is not that guy. He's the more passive, but, left-brained kind of guy.
Yeah.
Jesse, also passive. More of a right-brained guy, I would say, I think.
But even early on in the series, there's someone they have to kill. Jesse can't do it. Walter does.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true.
It's pretty brutal.
He'll take that step. Yeah, that's a good point.
And that follows that all throughout the thing, really.
Yeah.
Walter is the one that does it.
Captain America, I would put in the Walter White category, as much as he's a different kind of guy. Oh, well, not necessarily. He is an action-taking guy, obviously, but I think he's a logical guy. He's a thoughtful guy. He's strong, but he's like down to earth. Whereas Iron Man would be his opposite, I think, like a creative mind, very socially capable, the sense of humor, the performer.
Okay.
So I would put them as opposites, I think. Captain America, I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. I would put him by nature a more kind of passive kind of guy. Less like to be the first out there by nature. He's a leader, he'd be very good at giving orders and that kind of thing.
True, yeah. Captain America very much is a leader.
The first one to jump in there, I'd maybe put Hawkeye in that category.
Really? What, from the comics or from the film?
From the films, I'm thinking.
Oh.
I don't know the comics well enough.
I don't know. Even after watching that character in a couple of films, I still don't know anything about him. He's just...
That's true. That's a good point.
He's a weird background character with arrows.
Yeah.
Played by Jeremy.
So that's
Renner
the basic idea, where someone can have like either one or the other kind of energy, a more passive or a more active, and then a more creative or a more practical.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you use those as your yardsticks when you're developing your characters, or even thinking about them and their relationship. So it's not just, you're not thinking of it in terms of one character and their balance. You're thinking of the mix.
Either one. You can sort of get a sense of your character and sort of what's their baseline, kind of like how do they react to things? Is it more in a right-brained way or a left-brained way kind of thing? It works for group dynamics well. I've never used. I've kind of used it. Nothing in comics I've ever written or anything I've ever finished, but I've used it after the fact to look at my characters a little bit and see like what kind of balance I have. If I have all the types, it can be nice. I don't usually have all the types really well, and some people are somewhere in between.
Well, you'd think it was the way your comics done that. It would have been done that way. You would have, because your characters do have very like a dynamic going on. Very obviously different personality traits. And they have to have that because it's an ensemble cast of characters. Yeah.
Weirdly enough, I do have characters who butt heads. I gave them certain relationships, crushes, sort of an itch to scratch. Like certain characters dislike each other. Certain characters do like each other. So there was that aspect, a little bit different from temperament. So a little bit of like different temperaments for sure.
It seems like, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just
Please.
going to say, with the differences, probably all of obviously, when we make these characters, for the most part, we don't say, well, I'm going to make him more nurturing or more cerebral stuff. I mean, we do to an extent, but like to kind of cross section like that, but they just kind of naturally come out that way. And what will make it more apparent that this character has this temperament is, I think, when they're accompanied in the cast by other people who maybe contrast with it in different ways. It doesn't even have to be like they contrast in black and white ways. Like this guy is nurturing and this guy is Jeffrey Dahmer, that kind of shit. But the differences, even like the subtle differences, will come out more when you have people that even have the slightest differences interacting, which happens
that's true.
in Europe quite well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally. You see it when the opposite is there, when the contrast is there. It kind of definitely shows more clearly its own opposite kind of thing. You have the sort of person who's a little more hard edge, a little more of a hard line kind of person than the person who's more sort of, it's okay. Yeah. What are we worried about? And then you have, characters who would butt heads. Sometimes the people who have the most in common can butt heads the most. In life,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely like when someone has what you don't have, it can be really a strong friendship. Because you're each bringing something to the table the other needs, kind of thing.
Whereas when there's someone who has the same personality traits or whatever, you see yourself reflected in them without realizing it, and you think, you fucking idiot. What are you doing?
You okay? Oz is there with someone just with his same personality, and they're getting frustrated with each other.
Yeah.
The Mirror Oz.
Yeah.
He's got the goatee. I'm giving it a break for this.
Room enough in this world for one Oz. We can't handle anymore.
Oh, jeez.
Definitely, I haven't done this with other characters other than my own, really. I would definitely blitz off Pitface's Blitzoff comes to mind as the practical, confident type man of few words also. Although this temperament doesn't necessarily have few words. You know?
Okay.
I would kind of put him there.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
He kind of sits towards the extreme of that. At least for
Yes.
now he does.
Yeah.
How
His brother, a more emotional guy.
Blastov. It is, yeah. I love that character dynamic between Blitzov and Blastov. He's Blitzov,
I do
yes,
love him.
taciturn and stoic, and Blastov's like, oh, Blitzov, don't go to the mountains, don't go to the hills.
We put mother and father in the hole. I do not want to.
Don't die. What will I do without you, Blitzov?
You will be fine, Blasto.
Beauty is gone.
Beauty is gone. In there who's just kind of like not stoic, she's just kind of indifferent, like kind of desensitized. Which is toward Blitzov's end of the spectrum, I think. But she's just kind of, I don't know.
I think Blitzov internalizes more than she does, in a sense.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the way to word it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's all going to be tested soon, if I ever get back to that damn comic with my thesis. She should be picking up again, so.
Awesome.
Yeah, it'd be marvelous to see. What about Tread? We talked about him. What kind of is his particular character trait?
He is very towards where Blitzov is, but more so. He's more calculating than Blitzov. Blitzov likes to think that he's calculating, but the guy falls down mountains all the fucking time. Tread wouldn't do that. So Tread doesn't have to do something 20 million times incorrectly in order to figure out how to do it. He barely has to do it once because he super thinks everything. He's a computer, and he, as for being nurturing versus what was the other word that we used for the other?
Confident.
Nurturing versus confident. He's confident. He's very confident, but I think that would be the part of him that's not as extreme as maybe the cerebral part. He's confident, but I think he does have his own uncertainties. He just doesn't really express them quite a lot, which is weird to say because when you're writing and they don't come out, then they might as well not be there at all. But I think that there are tiny little times when you can see like towards like at the last battle, when Bones is going in to take care of Exus, little TLC, you have that scene in the beginning where Tread is in his super tank and he's blowing up the grunts and stuff like that and like firing through the dunes and stuff. And there's that one scene where one of the grunts fires this weird projectile thing, like this kind of penetrating projectile that I made up that makes no sense. And it penetrates through the whole of the tank and it kind of gets stuck. It doesn't blow up. It gets stuck and kind of lodged there. And Tread, like it stops right before his face, and Tread in the next panel, he's kind of like leaned to the side and is looking at it in a way that, although he's wearing his mask, I think you could kind of tell that it's something he wasn't expecting. It's something, it was the uncertainty he wasn't expecting, and that kind of thing will cause him to question stuff a little bit. But no, he's pretty confident, I'd say. He's got little moments, but he's pretty concrete, I think.
His confidence is more a side effect of the fact that he is calculating rather than...
he's calculating, and he describes to laws in a way. Not necessarily, I mean,
Logic.
part of them are the laws that, you know, if you can call them laws, the criteria, you know, that went on in Bunker City, whatever those criteria were, he ascribes to them.
Yeah.
And that has carried over in a lot of things that he does. He's ride or die. So anyway, I've been going on too long about him, but that's because I love my Teddy.
Well,
so.
he's good, and what I was trying to say is it's not confidence as in a faith-based confidence, a faith in yourself. It's confidence.
Right, maybe action taking is a better term to use. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it's a different kind of conflict. Yeah, the Captain Kirk thing. It's just unshakable belief in his own self, whereas this is, you know, he
actually based on fact.
Yeah, go out and do things because he knows it's gonna work. Yeah, he's an interesting character because you can examine him in those ways. What about Bones is a much more he's someone who does things based on belief rather than based on what he's actually worked out. He's much more spur of the moment. He can do things on a whim much more than Tread can. They're very opposites in that regard, but they're very similar only, I think, in the fact that when they decide what to do, they do it. Like, once they have that decision down, there's not really a second thought. But his is more based on intuition and gut. And
exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. He's a whim. Like whim and intuition and all that kind of stuff. He does.
Yeah. He'll jump in there first and then figure it out.
Whereas Blitzov, in comparison, I think, compared to the two, I don't know. We've had enough comparisons with them. We can move on.
We can move on.
Yes, I love them so, and I miss them. I miss writing them. As soon as I get done with this paper, I'm gonna lock myself away for 20 years and just
do the whole epic.
More Blitzov, please. I love our play that we did with them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Another play.
That's great.
All of these were awesome.
Okay, so I don't know.
Pinky, I don't know where I'd put her exactly.
I can't really think of her in those terms. It's weird because she was okay. She is her personality traits are more based on a mixture of Tank Girl and Flashman. So vainglorious, but also good. You know, she's a good guy, so she's not an evil bad guy like Flashman is. Flashman is an awful evil character. But you love him because he's a roguish bad guy. So Pinky is vainglorious and selfish and all that, but also good. And I would say, perhaps she is nurturing. Because at the root of things, I don't know, she becomes a leader.
Nurturing in the sense that it's the opposite of not self-fulfilling selfishness? Are we using it in that kind of opposite?
No. It's more like being more in your head and making plans.
Oh, okay.
As opposed to being more action taking by nature. I mean, they can still do things, and action taking people can still think, obviously, but do you lean more to the making plans side of things, to the hanging back, either giving advice or, supporting other people emotionally or whatever? Or are you more like the first one to jump into the fray?
Well, let's talk about Bottomless Waitress in those terms. That's a lot easier. Because those are
Yeah,
broad
it probably
characters.
is easier when you have a group. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're so broad as well. So, we've got Jane. She is obviously a nurturer. And
I would say Jane's a nurturer for sure.
is she
Probably a practical.
Yeah, practical nurturer.
I'd put Francis in the creative nurturer.
Okay.
The big softy, the uber feminine,
Yeah.
I would put Polly as Francis's opposite, I think.
Yes.
Very practical, keeps it real. She's like the Blitzoff type, even though Polly's a big mouth. Like temperament wise, she's like, if someone's acting up, she's the one who's going to go over and grab them by their collar.
The ear, yeah.
That's where I'd put them.
Well, yeah, okay. What about Craig?
Craig, I'd put him in the category of well, he's definitely passive.
Yeah.
He's not an action taker. He's a hesitator. Is his hesitation more like just insecurity, or is it his actual temperament? Hard to say. He might be somewhere in between, but I'd probably put him in the same personality type as Francis, I guess. He's passive.
Right.
He's he's quiet. He hesitates.
Yeah.
It does not work out well for him. I think it works pretty well for Francis. she seems to do okay.
Yeah, she's
Craig not so much.
Yeah. Our characters are weird in that because we have Jane. So we have Jane, all of them working in the bottomless waitress thing, but the way you've written Jane, she's never had sex. Pretty much, I think that's.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't want to say for sure, but I think. I think she was like having a heavy when she. What's that, Pitt?
That she's got the virgin-y aura.
She kind of does, and it makes like this whole story starts with her like just being like smitten and in love with the experience she had last night with her boyfriend, and I like to think it was just a makeout session.
Yeah. That
really moved her, kind of thing. That's sort of adorable.
It's so innocent.
Yeah, it's quite innocent. Yeah, she comes to work and like takes her pants off.
The great dichotomy.
Like shaking a cow in front of a velociraptor.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's a weird dynamic, but that's what it's all about. That's why it works so well.
Maybe we need a fourth character to round out this. Now that I'm looking at it this way,
sure.
we need the performer. We need like the brash, socially capable performer.
Well, there we are. We have the cowboy's wife. She can come in and take her place.
I was gonna say,
she feels like more of either a Jane or a Polly, I would say. Like you have two Pollys looking at each other and not liking each other.
I missed a line of dialogue from her.
Oh yeah, I was looking at the script. I noticed that. I think it's okay.
I've just made.
What'd she say?
She's meant to go, "This place is trash.
Yeah.
Let's go." This
She can
That
definitely say that later.
Yeah. Her face is saying it.
It definitely works. So just the silence, just the glare. Yeah.
You've got her mole there.
Yeah.
The moustache. Yeah, she's a bit of the Frida Kahlo, but
She needs just a day at the spa, and she will have a makeover, and she will bedazzle everyone.
lipstick on a pig.
I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever see those characters again, but I do fancy that they actually make each other very happy. She makes him very happy.
Can you imagine that? Like, well, I hope so. Can you imagine that? Like, if these characters somehow have consciousness in some dimension,
I
lady
imagine they do.
Totally.
Yeah.
I like to imagine too sometimes as well. I don't subscribe to the belief. I like to imagine it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't like to for what we do to them, but
Yeah.
but like she was created solely with the purpose of being an ugly, gross, unlikable person. Like
It's kind of cruel. We're cruel
like that's
gods,
having
aren't
a
we?
god that fucking hates you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, don't remind me. I felt bad as I was
You meet your
single
creator, and
time.
it's like, yeah, you were created just to be a punchline. That's all you are.
Yeah.
And a cruel one at that.
I was every time I was, drawing that character, thinking, "Ha ha, that mustache! Ah, the gap in her teeth! Ah," and then I'd think about it and look at it again and think, "Oh God, I'm in hell for this. This is so awful. How could I do it to this character? That's mean."
I think it's why I don't necessarily subscribe to that belief either, but it's crossed my mind, and I do really like a happy ending for almost all characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why.
I felt like a horrible person.
Oh, everything turns out okay. Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
But then again, I'm ascribing horrible personality traits to her as well. So I'm thinking, she's mean and she's bitchy and she's rude and she wants Polly to kill herself. And
Well, that's because she is so ugly and she has been treated differentially, and basically still your photos.
it's still my fault.
Give her a hot husband though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
She did
Who I
okay.
imagine gives her nookie every night and like loves her and is weird. Like that's his fetish. Like he likes garbage people.
Garbage people. That's where he found her, in that horrible dress. I had to do that dress. I had to Google horrible dresses to get one
Really?
the right shape and style. I custom made a brush especially to do the flower pattern, because you need a floral pattern on a dress like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, and I wasn't going to draw every single flower. I needed one that actually did it for me. So yeah, custom made a flower. And that's the only beautiful thing about her dress. The flowers on her dress. Oh, that could be a very sad song. It was the only beautiful thing about her. The flowers on her dress. That's what the cowboy sings every night.
Right.
Yeah. I'm curious how they met and stuff. Like those are those unspoken things in these kind of stories that I kind of love. Like you don't even have to show that, but like you see them and you can't help but imagine it. And it's fun. I got a burp coming up. Sorry, that sounded like I was about to cry. I was.
It's moving you so much.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful. Like an I find love.
Garbage person. There's a garbage person out there for you. Actually, that reminds me of when you said that the backstories of characters. Have you ever seen Run Lola Run?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing film where they have these scenes where this action sort of happening between these characters, and then it'll just go showing a bunch of snapshots of what happens in the future to a character. So, or what happened in the past to lead up to this character doing this thing. It just goes snap, 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 and you see it. All the things, like when this bum gets this bike, gets a bag and finds a gun in a bag and holds up someone and gets a whole lot of money. Or this horrible lady who says this rude thing to Lola, and she goes home to find her husband sleeping with someone else, or gets in a car accident or something like that. You have these bunch of snapshots, and so it gives you that timeline of the side characters. It's such a good idea. And yeah, that's what we're doing at the moment, going on a side character side thing rather than talking about personality traits. So yeah, the whole Bottomless Waitress is very simple and open and easy for people to work that out. You didn't consciously do that in Bottomless Waitress, did you, when you were designing those characters?
No, it was basically a Three Stooges template.
Oh.
I didn't think about this at all with them.
Does
It
Three
was like,
Stooges
okay,
fit
you
into
have
that thing?
No, not really. I mean, you could put them in category. haven't watched enough Three Stooges. I just watched one the other day. I taped it off TV, and
wow.
I couldn't really get into it.
They-
But they just keep hitting each other. Oz.
yes.
It's mean.
Which one was it? Was it the one with Shemp or Curly?
No, I watched it. It was Curly.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't Curly Joe?
No.
That's all I watched when I was a kid, man. My dad and I would tape the episodes and they'd come on, and I'd watch them. I remember being sick too, and like staying home from school, and it must have driven my mother crazy because I would just lie down on the couch and rewatch Three Stooges reruns all day long.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
It's a great show, but the first time you ever see Shemp, he's like a mutated car accident version of Mo.
Oh, of Mo. Okay, yeah.
It's the same hairstyle. It's got the same face, but it's just uglier. It's like yeah, Mo fell down the stairs and got sat on by an elephant, and then you get Shemp.
It's racist.
Racist.
By the way, the other way to think about these spectrums of personality are you can either be sweet or sexy. That's like the nurturing versus confidence spectrum. And you can either be smart or funny. That's the left brain to right brain spectrum. So like, are you sweet and smart? Are you sweet and funny? Are you smart and sexy? Are you sexy and funny?
Yeah.
That just kind of, I think maybe I read this somewhere, but that fits these 4 quadrants. Like you put those words together in different combinations.
Yeah.
And then your basic personality type.
Then of course you're in the middle.
You could be somewhere in between. It could be dead center. You probably, in temperament, you probably lean a little bit into one side or the other. But yeah, you're not necessarily a complete extreme, like genius, zero sense of humor, although that can be good in a fictional character to make them, like exaggerate it.
Yeah.
Like a total whack job
from,
or a total like bookish like OCD. Right. Yeah.
He's a genius, but he's not funny, he's not sexy.
Right.
And that's what makes the character funny and sexy.
Yeah. And it's not perfect. Like Walter White, I put him on the extreme of smart and the sweet side, although he's not a sweet guy. So it's not a valued, like it's not what would be the word?
It's not
like
literal.
I guess it's not quite literal. It's not positive or negative,
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, where are you on that spectrum between sweetness, which is a more passive, sexy, which is a more
active,
is different, kind of thing. So those words can maybe throw you too when you're thinking about it.
Okay. It's a complicated way of looking at characters, isn't it?
I mean, I find it simple because I've thought about it so much. And I've looked into the psychology of it is one thing. I don't have the words real well.
Yeah.
To really simplify it, the sweet to sexy, smart to funny thing kind of works, but you can't get thrown too much, especially by the sweet and sexy part. That could throw you maybe if you take it too literally.
Is it a bit like a Myers-Briggs thing?
Yeah, I guess so. Although I don't know that system very well. I don't know it well enough.
Intuitive, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You have specific personality traits and mixtures of personality traits, because that is another, a wheel. So people are more on this side, more on that side, and they're like spider webbing between, various traits.
Right.
Well, if you take the original, and I'm saying original because they originate also in philosophy, and then psychology just poached the concept, and then of course it was further ironed out in different theories and everything. But you have like 4 big categories of temperament, and maybe those terms might be a bit easier, albeit a little bit pretentious. So you got the sanguine personality, and the sanguine personality is the one that is the extrovert, the one that is social, the one that is active, has enthusiasm, is the heart of the party, and so on and so forth. That's the sanguine personality, temperament, and I won't say personality, temperament.
Yeah.
And then you have the choleric temperament, which is the people that are goal-oriented. They are very independent. They make decisions. They are the leaders. They are the ones that go, very cerebral, go by logic, go by evidence, and so on and so forth. Then you have the melancholic type, who are the ones that are the introverts. Those are the melancholic types.
Yeah.
They generally tend to be the ones that analyze. They're very oriented towards everyone's emotions. They also have feelers out for how everybody feels, and that's what they care about a lot. And that's a big element of what they react to. The emotionality of their environment. And that's why they also tend to be, withdrawn and generally not be the heart of the party. They're going to be the wallflower, more or less, and they are going to be the stressed wallflower.
Okay.
And then you got the phlegmatic, and the phlegmatic ones are the ones that are glib, theirs that make the jokes. They are the balanced guys that go with the flow. Like they are the ones that don't need to smoke weed because they are weed. That's basically.
That's the Banes of the group.
Yeah.
They are the ones that are going to generally be the calm force that calms everybody down, that finds the middle way, that gets everybody to cooperate based on common ground more than differences, and so on and so forth. But they can also be the ones that give away very easily. So that means that they might bend or cave very easily against pressure, and so on and so forth. So these are the 4 basic big categories, and then depending on what school of psychology you pick, you get other kinds of names for these categories that aren't really all that different. They just have different terms because the justification of what made these temperaments form changes according to the theory.
Yeah.
So you have those with a high or low tolerance. Those with high tolerance are the ones that would be the easygoing, the ones that don't get easily angry, that are extroverted, that they seek adventure, they seek thrills because they have a high tolerance in stimuli. So they seek stimulation in order to get to that cutoff point that gives them balance of being adequately stimulated. And then you got the low stimulated, the low tolerance, that are very easily aroused. And I don't mean the sex, I mean like the stimulation is extremely easy to get them to the point of not needing no more stimulation. So they get to be the introverts and the ones that are withdrawn, and they don't seek a lot of stimulation, a lot of thrill or anything because they don't need it. It gets them to have an overload. So depends. I'm not gonna go off more onto that sort of thing because then it will be a lecture.
Yeah.
We don't want that. But the idea is that temperaments have this spectrum, and they get these categories based on how much or how little of the four elements that I mentioned a character has.
Right.
Yeah, because like back in the old days, Banks was talking about the pseudoscientific aspect, but back in the old days, they believed you could change your personality type based on, changing those physical aspects. So if you were too sanguine, you might drain a bit of blood to change that.
Mm-hmm.
Too caloric, you might change that aspect. Get rid of a bit of bile from your system and all that kind of thing to make you vomit. To change you.
Nowadays, the theory and the conviction is that you are born with your temperament, and that's it. You can't change it.
Just as pseudoscientific, really.
Yeah. What you can do is learn how to manage it. So you might be a low tolerance person, so melancholic, let's say, and you can learn to act as if you were the opposite. It just takes a lot of personal training to do something that others with the correct temperament would do naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's attractive to believe that, isn't it? You can.
Personally, I don't believe in it, so I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, you can design your characters in exactly that same way. It's a very easy way to understand the way characters are put together. It's like Baines says, you've got those a spider web of Baines didn't say that, I said that, but it's like Baines says, you a balance of personality traits that very easily go together, and these makes it easy to understand. Well, Baines understands it.
Yeah. And if there's maybe it's not. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't explained super well.
No,
or it's not as user friendly as I thought it was. But
I'm just a moron. That's the explanation.
But it's like it's useful to understand your character on that level. Like, is this a more kind of passive person? More person, if you will, a sweet person, and their bravado is fake. And what's their journey also? Like are they overly bookish, or are they overly silly and all over the place? And their sort of journey, personality wise, is to get closer to the middle, to get a little practicality. And that can be dramatized by they get it from another character.
Okay.
Are they too eager to jump in? Are they too arrogant and full full of themselves and kind of overconfident, and they're alienating people? Too sexy, if you will, and they need some sweetness? Are they too smart, if you will, need some funniness?
And like you said, with bottomless wedges, you can think, all right, so the way I've got these characters indicates I need another character to round this out. I can see that I lack balance.
Maybe we do. Yeah. Finish up this archetypal circle. I'll have to go to work on that. Maybe our upcoming character Nikki maybe I'll change her character a tiny bit. She sort of fits the fourth quadrant, I think.
Okay. She's quite unlike the other characters.
Yeah, I think so.
Which means you can.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, we'll figure that out later.
Thanks for the rest of us.
I don't see her getting bottomless.
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, guys. It's not going to happen with Nikki.
I don't know if there's going to be another bottomless waitress unless we have a contract dispute with someone. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, jeez. Someone could pay
Get a substitute that's trying to be exactly the same. Maybe we'll do that.
All right. Well, I think we've covered this topic for an hour, which is good. Another Quackast.
Good deal.
In a can. All right. Thanks, guys, for listening to Quackast 391. This was the
Thank you.
personality mix. The character dynamic.
Yay.
Hope it wasn't too painful.
Not at all. Never is. All right. I'll stop.
I'm talking to the listeners. Let us know in the comments
We don't care about that.
how painful it was. Tell us how far you made it.
We won't hear from anybody because they all killed themselves.
If they answer this question, if they even answer this question, you know that they made it to the end.
That's
So-
true. That's a good point. I should have said it at the beginning. The secret word is mozzarella.
I
Of course,
love
this
the
podcast
accent.
goes up in like 6 months, so I won't even remember saying this. But, yeah.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.